Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we are going to tackle, oh, I forgot. Give me a minute. I'll think about it. Oh, I got it. Where are we living from? Which, this is going to piggyback on a lot of different videos that have kind of been themed lately that I've done about what are we really supporting. And as we go through, especially in the United States, it's been a very up and down a couple of months. And you've seen the collectives kind of split off, different collectives supporting different things. And the more you go through your ascension process, you do kind of pull out of a lot of that stuff. And I did a video with a group of people, maybe last week, and we talked a little bit about it. Because one thing that did surprise me when we were going through the election in the States was I did find myself going one way or the other, which I thought I had no connection. It's like I don't pick sides. I witness what's going on with the collectives, but I can't support human realities. Supporting a human reality means I'm giving energy to anything that has to do with the human reality, whether it be time or money, in the sense of anything that's splitting apart humanity and dividing everything up. So you don't take part in that stuff. If you say you're going to leave the human realities, and that means all the construct of human realities, which means all of it. It doesn't mean what suits me. And in the beginning, we will all do it suits me to leave this, but not this. It suits me to go this way, but I'm going to try to keep this over here because I kind of want this one. I'm going to just put that one in my pocket. I want to keep that one. But I don't want anything to do with that one. And there's still kind of a self-serving thing of what do I pick to keep and what do I pick to let go of. Now, for some people, politics is a big one. For some people, it's not going to be. For me, it never really was. But I did find myself, when it got really magnetized and just got really heightened, I found it did come in my field. And I felt like I was drawn to listen to some of the content, which I normally never do. So you might find when things get very magnified in the collective, starts to kind of pull it out of you. Even if you can watch it, but you might feel yourself going a certain way because you still hold that program in your cellular memory, and that's what that's showing you. So instead of beating yourself up about that, which I was doing for a while, I was like, why do I care? I did try to almost shut it out. I'm like, there's a reason I feel drawn to it. Let me just explore that and then clear it and not worry about why it's still there. It's still there because it's in my cellular memory somewhere. It's still there. I can ignore it and pretending it's not there, but it's there. So when you get into these situations where you feel either drawn back, like I said, a lot of the things that people will kind of try to hold on to, religion, that's one. If you're really attached to a certain religion, ascension can be really difficult for when you get to those parts where you're talking about embodying in Christ energy, God, activating your God particle, going into Archangel Michael, warrior energy. When you get into these different energies that have any type of religious story around them, some people have issues with becoming that part of their universe, becoming the creator of their universe, because it's a separation, right? And it's same thing if you've always been really into politics. That's a separation, a part of separating off, right? Part of separating our soul off and living kind of siloing ourselves in. We're not in it for the collective anymore. We're in it for for ourselves. So there are different ways we will pick and choose. And another one I'll still see people playing, because I tried to play in this one for a long time. You're still kind of in that twin flame matrix kind of thing, right? Looking for your mate, at that point in the human realities, we're conditioned to find a mate, right? We need to find a mate. We need to, because we don't want to be, alone. And that's a big one we'll play into for a long period of time until we realize that's just a story in itself. There is no person that makes you whole, right? Even though, you see every rom-com and every Disney movie that promise you it is, there is no one that's going to do that for you. all that those relationships will do is help you clear programs you can hold yourself, or you will have parts of those relationships. Sometimes the relationship will be completely miserable. It depends on where you are in your relationships and how many you've gone through. Some are totally miserable. Others, but you're still, drawn to the person because they share a similar energetic signature that you share. Other times you're just going to find that you have really happy moments with certain people. But they activate that within yourself, so you can realize, okay, that's a feeling I can get on my own, but I couldn't feel that unless they activated it, right? They helped me get there. That was their purpose. Them staying here forever, that is not their purpose. That is not their purpose. Their purpose is just to activate the feeling. That's why when you get into ascension, the more we pull away from everything, there will be maybe that one thing you don't want to let go of, whether it's the dream. Even if you're not in the twin flame matrix still, maybe it's still the dream of that, and the dream of maybe I can find that one person, right, that'll get me on every level. When you realize that, well, my universe gets me on every level and all my aspects of me, I don't require that. If something like that came along, that's great, but it's not a requirement for me to feel fulfilled. That's where we kind of get tripped up. We make so many of these things our identity, or we feel that we're left out if we don't have that as an identity, because it's so ingrained in the human beliefs that, it has to be like this. I have to have these things, So whether it's religion you're trying to hold on to, whether it's politics, whether it's, even the human health system, that's another one. A lot of us, I see a lot of people when we start pulling out of that, when you're pulling out of the human health, that means you're not going to human doctors, you're not doing any of that. Some people will say they felt drawn to wean off medication. Other people say they can see they need to be off of certain medications by a certain year. It doesn't really matter where you fall in it. If you feel like you're still supposed to be there, just because you're still in them, doesn't mean you're betraying your process. You're just not in that stage yet. But we do realize that, that's got to go. And the things that are going to have to go. And I would always say, because you could start to, the higher your frequency gets, you're going to be able to look down. That's why the body always comes up last. In a sense, our consciousness raises and you can look down and see the whole thing. It's like you're looking at when you're in it, it's like when you're in the forest for the trees, or you're in a maze, or you're in a corn maze, because we're in the fall in the Virginia, this time of year, we're having our Virginia fall, which has been very warm, but I digress. You look down, and when you're in the corn maze, you don't know which way to go. You're just so blinded by the maze, you can't see the whole thing. You get above the maze and look at it from the top, and you can see how it all laid out. That's why your consciousness has to raise first. That's why you listen to so much higher consciousness content to activate your consciousness, get it up. So then you can see. And then once you see it, then your body will come up and start to activate that plan, in a sense, right? You'll start to see what you got to do. And you might be able to look at certain things and go, okay, that's not going to be aligned forever. That medication's not going to be aligned forever. That friendship, unless something really can shift there, that's probably not going to be aligned forever. My partner, not going to probably be around forever. If it's blood family, okay, my relationship with my parents, that has to have some kind of, we have to bring some alignment to that, or that's, or if I can't align it, I've got to have a way to resolve it without aligning it with other people. Because there are sometimes the people are not going to be receptive to trying to align it. And then we have to figure out how to resolve that ourselves. What are we still carrying around with us there? What am I still holding on to there? Where did some of these things I'm trying to, work through, these programs I'm trying to work through, even the mental health system from the human consciousness is still trying to get you to live in a human society. So all of these things, no matter what you're still in, the financial system. So, having that really human job, because you find no matter how, you can take any job you have and bring light to it, and make it a highest aligned in that moment. And there might be a time where you might say, okay, I know this isn't aligned forever. I know I've got to pull out of these certain things, but for now it is aligned. we have to be able to be honest with ourselves about that. And, sometimes we'll go, but I want to be here where I don't have any of this stuff anymore. But that's not your time to be there yet. It's not your time to leave everything behind yet. Though there is a time when you will be called to leave all that stuff behind, because you can't exit realities unless you actually leave them. Exit means leave, right? We can't say we're going to go and then I'm just going to sit right here. I'm going to leave, but, not right this second. I'm just going to nest like a cat. I'm going to nest right here. I'm not going to go anywhere. Eventually, we got to go, right? That might not be right now for you. And the same thing about, we talk a lot about, I don't know if we talk a lot about it, but it has come up. We talk about how our creation energy your sexual energy starts to change into creation energy, and you start creating things. And your sexual energy shifts a lot during ascension, right? And there's the different reasons, there's the DNA mingling we can't do anymore. There's purification of your DNA you have to go through. But if you really feel like, I really feel like I'm going to be with this person, have a child, well, then you're going to have sex to do that. If you're going to do it that way, that's what's going to happen. That's how that gets done, right? So if you feel drawn to these things and to still be in some of this stuff, it does not mean you won't be going full on ascension. It doesn't mean, but maybe in this moment, I feel the stronger, I need to do this first. We want to follow where we're being drawn to, but we also want to be able to look and see, why am I still being drawn to that? And being drawn for that because I really feel like this is what I'm supposed to do, because it's highest line for me to do this. Am I being drawn to it because I'm still getting I'm in a fear, especially when we start leaving the health systems behind. We get in this fear that someone else needs to tell me that everything's okay, right? As long as I go to a human doctor and they tell me everything's okay, then I know everything's okay, right? Whereas when your body starts going through the changes that ascension brings on, your blood work might go crazy. Different things start to happen with your body where a human doctor might look at that and say, oh, I don't know what's going on with you. But you're okay. And you don't need someone to tell you that. And you don't need to go through 100 different tests every year to make sure you're okay, or a lot of different vaccinations and all these kind of things that the human system tries to keep us in. Now, that doesn't mean if you feel really drawn, the big example of this was we were in the whole COVID reality. Some people would take the shot, don't take the shot. It didn't matter if you took it or not. It mattered as to why you were doing it. That was more important than the act. The energy behind what you're doing is more important than what you're doing, always. But our human will flip that and say, what I'm doing is more important. It doesn't matter why I'm doing it, it's the doing. Flip that on its ear when you're in ascension. It doesn't matter what the hell you're doing. What's the energy behind why you're doing it? Is this pushing you forward into a highest aligned reality, into the next higher aligned reality? Is it pushing my ascension? I'm going to call it an agenda. Is it pushing my ascension agenda forward, my ascension timeline forward? Or am I just drawing on a timeline because I don't want to leave all these things behind? I'm afraid. I'm afraid that they were right? I'm afraid that the human realities are right and I'm stepping into something that's a bunch of bullshit and that's wrong. You're going to feel these things and you're going to feel that, when am I really ready to leave it behind? Because I know it's bullshit and I don't believe it anymore. I know these things aren't true. I know it's time to go. What you exit and what you choose to keep for a while will show you, and what you have the biggest fear of walking away from. But you want to be able to have your eyes open. You want to be conscious of the choices you're making, and don't try to fool yourself into thinking that, I'm making these choices, that this is highest line right now because I don't want to deal with it. That's another trick we'll do. You're going to have a lot of tricks you're going to play. Your human's going to play on you. Your ego's going to play on you. And once you feel like you've beaten your ego at one thing, you may find a tactic that you can kind of get around it and know. Your ego will get smart and kind of work around that where that doesn't work anymore. I used to say, okay, I'm supposed to do A or B, have this person text me. I'm supposed to do this, have this person text me. And for a while that worked. And then for a while that didn't work anymore. Because your universe also wants you to go deep in and go, you know the answer. You don't need to have an external sign to tip you off. You know what you have to do. You just don't want to go fucking do it. So you're not going to get any of those signs because you know now. So a lot of that stuff kind of does cease to work, and then you feel like you're kind of abandoned for a while because you're like, oh my God, I used to have all these signs. I used to say, oh, bring me a red bird, and the red bird would just appear, and now that I can't find a red bird, anywhere when I'm asking the simplest question. So when you're in these different situations and you're starting to say, well, okay, what human thing am I still participating in? It's okay to make a list and say, okay, I'm still participating in these things. Why? Why am I still participating in these things? Do I believe the rhetoric of these things? Do I feel like for now, there will be a lot, especially with the health system, there might be a lot of things that you see, okay, if you're on a medication, I'm going to stay on it till my guidance is, I feel like I'm supposed to stay on it till this amount of time. Then I know I got to be off of it and I got to wean off of it. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. You'll know, if you are going through something and you're like, oh, is this just my ascension? Is this just light hitting my body? Or do I need to go to a hospital? Listen to what you say. If your body says no, go to a hospital, go to a hospital. We need to really listen to ourselves. And I bring up the health system more because it is a big one to leave behind, because it's so ingrained that we have to do all these things every year. And we get to this age, you have to have all these tests and you have to have someone else verify you're okay, And I would always say, until the one day they say you're not. It was until, the hurricane hits your house that year, in a sense, Every year we kind of feel like we dodged the bullet. Well, not this year. The tornado didn't hit my house, but nothing massive happened. But at some point it will. You're just going to, we're blowing on the dice in the human realities. At some point, that's it. It's the game's over. Human realities will always win at the end because the game is rigged. The house is going to win. The human reality, the game is always rigged. So when you start to really look at what we participate in, you start to really look at why you're participating in it, really break it down and be honest with yourself. And it's okay to say, yeah, I know this has to go. And you might say, okay, but I don't have the money for this thing to go. I don't have the money to do this right now. So especially if it's something you have to pay money to do. If you have, it's if it's surgery, you're going to have something done. Or sometimes we'll see ahead, yeah, we might have to have something done. We might have to do this one thing or do this other thing. Sometimes you'll know that, even if we just go simple and say, okay, I had, if we have tattoos and it's like, I've got to get this removed. And you just know, for whatever reason, whether it's something to do with the ink that's bothering your body now because your body's now in a heightened state, it doesn't matter what the reason, but you can see, oh yeah, I gotta take care of that at some point. But that's gonna cost this much money, and I don't have this much money right now. So when I'm supposed to do it, they'll bring me someone who can do it for me, or the money will come to do it. And that's another sign sometimes we can use for certain things. Okay, if I'm supposed to move out of this house, if I'm supposed to go into a different direction, the universe will bring me another option. Are you taking that option when it comes, or are you still trying to hold on to it because, I really don't want to let that part of me go because there's a story around it. There's an identity around it. There's something I have to do. A lot of people who have metal in their body, implants in their body, a lot of these things will start to come up, and go, okay, what am I supposed to do? Am I do I keep it? What year? Even though there is no linear time, there is a cadence to each linear year we go through, human year we go through, where your body will be at a certain place where you might feel like, okay, maybe I broke my ankle 15 years ago and I have screws in my ankle and I got to get those out. I got an implant and I feel like that has to come out too at some point. These are things you're gonna just kind of feel your way through. And same thing with, how you're gonna deal with the different, like credit is another big one. Ascended realities, you're not on credit. You have to be on cash. So if you don't have the cash, you don't do it. That's another one we go through. Because that's a tough one to learn. A lot of times your universe will just take all the credit cards away and you're like, okay, you got to wait till the cash comes in. We have to totally trust that that's going to work out, especially when we don't have regular jobs anymore, And we have to be able to let this stuff go, right? And realize when you get the cash, then you can do it. And that's, I mentioned in another video, kind of asking for the cash and saying what it's for. And then if you notice it's not coming, it might just be highest the line for you to do that right now. That's why you're not getting it, We really have to look at the why and not so much the what. Humans are going to look at the what and not the why. If you're starting with the what, go back to the why. And that might clarify a lot of what's going on. So, all right, keep practicing the art of intuition.